One of my greatest and most favorite Amy Winehouse personal moments was when I got called to do the 2007 MTV Movie Awards. And as most people may know, Cali's my second hometown, so you know what I mean when I say West Up to all my peoples out there. You know, I was partially raised in Santa Monica because of my grandfather had moved out there when he got away from the New York City music business, and he went out there to hang with Dennis Wilson and some of the other Beach Boys and things of that nature. So Cali's always been a part of my history, even as a kid. So when I got a chance to go back there for the first time in a long time, courtesy of Amy and Ray and the people who hooked me up with this whole experience that I had with her, as soon as the plane landed, I already had my mind already set on what I was going to do as soon as I got to the hotel. I dropped off my clothes, my bags, and everything like that, and I was going to jump in the cab and head down to Santa Monica and see if the old neighborhood that I lived in was still up. As I was coming, as I was coming out to go, here comes Amy and her boyfriend, who became her husband, Blake, coming from the pool area. And they saw me and they was like, "Hey, Lawrence, hey, what's up?" And I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" I gave him a hug and everything. And she's like, "Oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do right now?" I got a bad British accent. Like, "What are you going to do right now?" I said, "Well, I'm going to Santa Monica to see my own neighborhood and catch up and see if some of the same people are still around or whatever have you." She's like, "Oh no, before you do that, can you please have breakfast with us?" I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Sure, come and sit down." When she invited me to have breakfast with her and her boyfriend, you know, that was just deep by itself, because as many people in the industry know that when you get hired as a background singer, your job is not necessarily to get that close to the artist or to build that kind of relationship with them where you can be having a small talk. Your job is to basically know your note, come there, do the sound check, rehearsal, blah, 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 you're out. Because most stars don't even kick it with their background singers or their band for that matter. So the fact, here comes Amy with a bathing suit and a robe and her husband, and they're inviting me to sit down and have breakfast with them. And the breakfast ended up becoming a 2-hour thing where we just sat and we talked about music. You know, we were speaking about the variety of influences that she had and who she really listened to, her upbringing in London, the schools that she went to for performing arts. Even Zaylon had came downstairs and joined in on the conversation as well. It was incredible because I learned so much, and the kicker for me was that she knew who my granddad was, and that was because I have found out that when some of the members was talking about me to the management of Sharon Jones and Amy and everybody else, they had told her about who my grandfather was and who he worked with. So I think Amy had did her own research. So that was amazing that she knew who my grandfather was, and she said that she loved his music as well. So I was just like, wow. You know, just to be able to know that somebody who I'm really digging at the moment and working with that knew who my grandfather was. I mean, you know, that's got to make you feel some kind of great way. But just as much as credit was being given, she really kind of killed off the whole superstardom thing. A lot of people don't know is that Amy really wasn't content with being a superstar. She really wasn't into that whole scene at all. She was just a regular London girl that lived her life. You know, even if people didn't necessarily agree with the choices she made concerning her health or whatever have you, but Amy was just that much of a rebel and a free spirit, and she really lived by her own rules, especially when it came to her musical vision. So when she was telling me how much Salt and Pepper, Dinah Washington and Billie Holiday and Donny Hathaway influenced her, and I also made a note to mention how I love how she included Donnie's name within her song Rehab. And everybody knows that famous line, "You can't teach me anything that I haven't learned already from Mr. Hathaway." And that alone blew my mind. Even the line when she said, "I'd rather be at home with Ray," when she's talking about Ray Charles. So there was such a genius to her writing, and that was her way of saluting the influences that pretty much made her music what it is. Same thing with Motown. We talked about Motown and who some of her favorite groups were. She really did her homework, and when it came to the music, she was a true student of the game like myself. And that's one of the many great memories I had with her, besides her cracking jokes on Bruce Willis backstage when we did the MTV Movie Awards. It was just one of those particular times where I was just glad to be in great company with her. And this wasn't the first conversation. The next conversation we would have like that during that week in California was the early in the morning portion, which was about another day right before the actual performance, where this time it was me, Ray, Zaylon, Amy, and her boyfriend, and we were just talking about music once again and how she looks at life. And I remember one of the questions that I asked her was, have you started putting material for a third album already? And her reply to me was, no, not really. I'm not very ambitious. So that reply kind of told me what I knew, that what we're all experiencing now with the fact that she's no longer with us. But that particular phrase gave me somewhat of a look into the type of demons that she was fighting against, and how she felt on the inside, because she often said in many of her interviews that she loved being a housewife, and you know, she wanted to be a housewife as opposed to being on stage. She was more comfortable at home cooking in the kitchen for Blake than being on stage, and that blew my mind right there, because it just showed me how much everybody is different. So I make no apologies for the fact that I share a lot of my experiences with Amy, with the rest of y'all, because I want people to really understand that though she struggled and fought off a lot of demons, her music is the important factor of her legacy, even with just those 2 albums. And trust me when I tell you, she recorded a lot of stuff for both albums that did not even make the final cut. So don't be surprised if you see an album coming out before this year is out, or even next year. They're going to have a whole bunch of B-sides and live acoustic performances, because as I mentioned in the other vlog, that Amy was an accomplished musician. She wasn't just some girl that just heard different sounds and said, okay, let's use that. No, she was a real writer and a real musician. And that's one of my many great memories of Miss Amy Winehouse.